you got a bunch of guys walking around doing their own version of what they think an ape is, and none of them align. If you have someone that brings you into the world and you study the anatomical, the physiological differences, the psychological, differences, then you all go through this process of calibration, and you figure out how they would move, and then you figure out, and then people always talk to me about the voice of the character, and I'm like, you had so much to do with it. I had this one day, I just came out with this sound, and it just came out, and Alain was like, oh my God.
Kevin, I want to ask you this before we get into anything, because you just sat through like the last 10 minutes of this. What was that like, watching those moments and seeing it this way?
I've actually been kind of hesitant. I've been scared of it, to tell you the truth. Because when I was playing it,
no makeup.
Yeah, yeah, and I was just telling Wes, how rewarding this experience it was for me, because I've always been such a physical creature from when I came out of the womb, and in film work, so many times people are like, okay, you have to work on your stillness. So for years, I'm like trying to take this giant cranium and giant frame and all these giant emotions that I have bubbling inside of me all the time, and try to like just be a little more still. And Wes was like, no, just lean in, do whatever you want. Yeah, scratch your butt, it doesn't matter. And so it was just the most liberating thing. So seeing it here, it was great to see, because all that ever matters is really commitment. Yeah.
And I hope, hopefully not everyone, this was your first time watching this, because it's a strange way to watch a movie for the first time. But I hope it comes across, because people do not understand that these movies, a lot of people think it's voiceover work. Not there's anything wrong with voiceover work. It's all very valuable stuff. But I hope this really shows the physical acting work that has to be done to allow for those things to happen, right? I think it really comes across when you watch the movie this way. It's like, this is an acting job. It just happens to be this visual effects makeup gets applied, in post on these guys. But every little blink, the amount of time that we spend analyzing every little performance choice that everyone made, and then make sure that's reflected inside this fully synthetic CG creature. It's like, it's a miracle, actually, that it works. And a lot of credit goes to Weta for doing that, but they take a lot of care in making sure that the choices you guys make, winds up in the end result.
But go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, I was going to say the choices that you make, you don't downsell yourself.
You didn't see his bad stuff. You just saw his good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was the most rewarding thing I've had a chance to be a part of. Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to say, Kevin, because a lot of this is also, credit to you and everything that you've done to, bring this together. And I think people, don't always appreciate or understand how much goes into it. I mean, talk about navigating, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, because it's a lot. You're not just, storyboarding or visualizing the story. You're working with Weta a lot to even get this, and the technology has changed so much. There's so much to unpack there, but where do you even begin? Take us back, like.
Good question. So it was my first mocap movie. Movie before this, I had done something called Mouse Guard, which was going to be a big mocap movie. So I had kind of cut my teeth on that thing. And I had learned, a bit from Matt Reeves, who's a producer on that. And he was telling me about all the stuff he learned on Apes, and I was applying that to the Mouse Guard movie. When that kind of went down, the studio kind of said, sorry, what would you do with the next Planet of the Apes? and that was like, oh gosh, what would I do with that? So it took about a year or two and tried to figure out what would we do for another Planet of the Apes? How do we kind of open up, not just doing part 4, but open up kind of a new road through a new part of the forest, so that this franchise that's been going on for 50 years could continue on, and we can open up whole new kind of story track for us, which I think hopefully it comes across in the movie. And so then it came down as like any other thing. It's like good script. I do a lot of artwork. I'm a visual kind of creature. So I I try to visualize things, really early on. So a lot of times when we talked, I would sit there and walk you through all the artwork, make you see that world, because we weren't going to have it on set for the most part. Even though we're out in real locations, we don't have a ship out there. We don't have we don't have all these crazy, wild, fantastical things. But we were out in the real world, which you saw, I think, a lot in the footage. We're out there with the bugs. We're out there racing the sun. Dirt in our fingernails. Like there's a quality, there's a thing that I love about that process rather than being on stage. It just gives it a life and like a thing that I think shows up in the performances, in the camera work, and all that kind of stuff. And so when you approach it that way, which is basically like a regular old movie, the technological kind of layer, you get used to it very quickly. I mean, you should talk about that a little bit yourself, but for the most part, we have a giant truck somewhere off screen that's a giant computer basically, and it's got tons of cameras all around, hidden throughout the world. If you look at all the sets, you'll see there's little hidden infrared cameras all over the place, unlike a normal stage. And then we kind of plan accordingly, we put the cameras up and then we wind you guys up and let you go, But a big part of the process, which I think you should talk about, is this kind of ape training, the kind of like getting into the mindset of being an ape. Because like you saw there, we're doing some translation. The artists need to get a big kind of round of applause, I think, of just what they contribute to all this stuff. But you guys drive this thing. So you can't just go in and just be Kevin. You have to like hold yourself and talk a certain way and move your lips and all the things that you guys come up with of like, oh, the apes don't actually move their hips the same way or their shoulders the same way. So you guys limited and really became apes, even though you're dressed in these funny, lycra suits. It's a crucial part of that process of internalizing the ape thing so that you're not thinking about that on set and you're just performing, you're delivering the story,
Well, we were really lucky because, I think I sent my audition tape out on a Wednesday and I was talking to you by Friday or something crazy. And I thought it was just like a callback kind of thing. And he just sits down and he talks me through the entire film and shows me all the art and all this incredible, like I had a really good sense of what the film was going to become just from that conversation. And I'm sitting there, I couldn't help, the actor me just going, so do I got the part though? It's like,
nope, see you later.
This is how amazing it's going to be. We're going to break all kinds of barriers, but I might hire someone else.
I use it as selfishly as like a chance for me to try out ideas, I got to pitch stuff. I was just doing this today, actually. It's like trying out thing.
But we all had the same thing, like Owen, myself, everyone was like, did you have that conversation? Yeah. Did you know you had it? No, I didn't. But
I remember with Peter Macon, the guy who plays Raka, I actually opened up the storyboards for his death scene. Oh, sorry. Did that not show up in this movie? No, if you haven't seen it, sorry, spoiler alert. He does. But it's just at the time it was a different scene. Actually, I thought a better scene, but it had, for lots of reasons, it had to kind of change. But I opened up the storyboards and I walked into the same thing and I talked him through every shot of the thing and how it's gonna go. And I look up, and I'm like lost in my own world. I look up and he's crying on Zoom.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that scene's gonna work, baby.
He was crying because he was like, but do I have the job?
Sure, that's it.
But it's an amazing thing to walk into when you have a mind like this working on the story and every aspect of what was going to go into production, and then you walk in, and the most incredible thing was that you guys gave us so much time. Like we had 6 weeks of ape school. When do you ever get 6 weeks?
Which is basically rehearsal.
It's rehearsal. And I showed up late to the party. So I just had Alain Gauthier, who's one of the founders of Cirque du Soleil, working with me by myself in the ape basement, the torture room.
So it's so crucial.
Oh my God.
If you don't do it right,
oh my God,
there's no visual effects are going to save that.
you got a bunch of guys walking around doing their own version of what they think an ape is, and none of them align. If you have someone that brings you into the world and you study the anatomical, the physiological differences, the psychological, differences, then you all go through this process of calibration, and you figure out how they would move, and then you figure out, and then people always talk to me about the voice of the character, and I'm like, you had so much to do with it. I had this one day, I just came out with this sound, and it just came out, and Alain was like, oh my God, and he videotaped it, sent it to Wes, and I think you responded with exclamation marks, and then we talked about it.
Yeah, sure.
And we were like, okay, but what about the anatomical differences in the throat, the voice box?
That's kind of where it came from. It's an effort. It's an effort.
Yeah. So we just kept working, and then every syllable comes from the diaphragm, trying to push it out.
I should say that. There is a leap of faith. Like, I've never done this before. You can imagine on the first day of set, I come out and all these actors in these strange lycra suits, and they're walking around and they're doing this. And I'm like, oh my God, is this
what
gonna
am
work?
I doing?
Is this gonna work? And I didn't know if it was gonna work for a year. So because then we shoot for whatever it is, a couple months, and then we go in the editing room, and I don't see shots. I make choices. I say, I think it's this take, and then a couple months later, I get a shot back, and I'm like, oh my God, it worked, But the idea that that if that shot came back and didn't work, there's no time. I have 1,500 shots. Each shot takes months. There's no time to go back. So it's like a lot of credit goes also to this, Matt and Rupert who started this whole process and really kind of figured out some of the issues and Weta, of course, and all the people that have made these movies. I leaned on them hardcore to know that they've done this before. We're not breaking new ground necessarily. We're kind of paving it now, Yeah. But it was fun. It was a great experience.
I love that you talk about, going to ape school as part of your process, but for this, you also had to wear the head-mounted facial camera. So it's not just the motion capture suit and dots. You're now wearing something on your head. What was that like as an actor to be wearing that? Because that's an additional thing that you've got to work into your performance.
I think you're always, as an actor, no matter what you're playing, you're always faced with obstacles. And sometimes before you start out, you're like, oh shit, that's going to be a huge, how am I going to get around that? This was the case with all of this technology. I really thought, oh, is this going to impede me? When really it just gave me so much freedom. So once you forgot about, it's a little strange because you got the helmet on and then you've got this arm.
It's kind of weight pulling.
Yeah. So this weight's pulling you down that way. So it changes you physically, but you're doing something completely physically different than what you are. So it just becomes part of it. And it disappeared within, honestly, it disappeared. At the end of Ape School, they would bring us into the volume room, and it's where you would actually move around in the suit and see. I guess it was more like Caesar's avatar when we
kind of generic kind of model,
and you could see yourself in this ape avatar, and you could see what looks like a big French Canadian lumberjack walking around, trying to be like a monkey, or you just see the ape, and very quickly all I could see was the ape. And then that's why when you're like, oh, you're gonna go see the last 10 minutes, I was like, I've been scared, bro, to look at it, because I want to look at it, but I'm scared because my manager friend Angie here, she was like, hey, you want to prove the pictures for apes? And I was like, yeah, okay. And I looked at some of the pictures. I was like, Angie, I can't look at these goddamn pictures because most of the pictures I'm like this. You know, it's just like, it's like, oh my God, I can't look at it. My human vanity is already frail and fragile enough. I cannot deal with this. So Angie, so I was a little scared. At the same time, I was incredibly honored by the fact that you have push this forth so that people can truly understand the process and how incredible it is.
A little peek behind the curtain, you know. We don't give away everything, but like I think it's important. It showcases what you guys do. It showcases what the artists do. Like there's so much misconception that like, oh, it's like voiceover work, or like, oh, there's a button that says, you know, make ape. It doesn't work that way. This is like absolute like artists at their peak doing real craft. And like the amount of work here, it's like, it is a miracle. You know what I mean? And the fact that you can watch the movie, hopefully, and you don't think about that stuff is a testament to how difficult and how challenging this work is, because hopefully you're just watching the movie and you're just saying, oh, there's an ape talking and that's it. You know, and what people don't realize is, you know, what's hard to at least forget is, like, basically there's 1,500 shots in the movie. Only 30 of them have no visual effects in them, right? So every single shot is a 100% CG, you know, thing of a creature that doesn't exist. It's not real, but hopefully you empathize with it as though it were real. There's a real soul there, and that's obviously you guys driving that. But it's just it never ceases to amaze me, like the kind of the achievement of that, you know?
God, yeah.
Well, to your point, I think, you know, I remember watching that for the first time and feeling all the emotion, right? There's so much heart in that. What's the conversation that you had with Weta? I think it's also like a testament to that technology and how far it's come to making sure we're getting that emotional performance.
Well, that's kind of where the actors come in, right? It's like we're looking at the movie and we're seeing our actors. You know, you saw the way I saw the movie most times, what you saw on the bottom frame, right? Where it's just raw footage, you know. And then we look at that and say, see this thing we're feeling right now? You can feel it. You know, you know if it's working or not. It takes a lot of, you know, projection to kind of like, okay, it's going to be an ape. It's going to be an ape. But like, you can tell that person is really committed, you know, is really in the scene, is really emoting. And like there's a real subtlety to that thing. And then it's just about us with Weta, you know, they're very good at what they do, but like really kind of pinpointing, why is it the way they feel this way? Why are we feeling this? Oh, there's a little thing here. This eye is actually 3 millimeters too low, the eyelid. And as soon as we put some weight in there, boom, there's that performance that he gave us. It's like, it's amazing the amount of subtlety that we take for granted in human performance. You know what I mean?
I was really blown away when we had finished shooting and I got back to California, and good old Eric, who's the head of the visual effects supervisor at Weta, he had like this really long conversation with me, going through all the scenes, asking me what I was thinking when I said certain things, when I did certain things, what stuff that you wouldn't imagine having this you don't have this conversation with people very often, and he wanted to know all of it, and he put together this Bible for all of us in our performances, and of the thousands of artists that work on these renderings, they all had that Bible to read before they put their card in that day and went at it for.
They're ultimately interpreting, basically, right? They're seeing what you're doing. Like, I know what he's thinking now. I know where his mind's at. And me as an artist can go through and figure out how to apply that to this ape creature and make sure that, because sometimes it doesn't work. The brows don't move the same on an ape. We have to find different ways to go. You know, there's a level of interpretation that happens, but it's always an effort of achieving what you guys did on set, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. When I first saw it, we were in the ADR room, and I think you said, "Hey, play it for him," and you went to the bathroom. You came back. I was like in tears because I was like, I don't know. There was an intensity in my mind when I was doing it. It felt like I was like throwing off this intensity, and I was like, how are they going to get that intensity across? And then as soon as I saw the eyes,
one of my favorite scenes is like you guys in that little dinner table scene where it's just you, you know, and just the looks. It's like this. It was great. I love that. And it was my first dinner table scene, you know, that are notorious. You know how that works. We shot it 2 days. 2 days, like 5 characters and this crazy like 5-minute scene, but it was great, you know.
From a selfish actor's perspective, one of my favorite actors was in that scene, Bill Macy, and I was like, I can't wait for Bill to watch me do this. Because I'd done a film with him years and years ago where I just, it was a fun film, Wild Hogs, but I was kind of, almost like an afterthought character now.
I wonder what Bill thought. Like, he's sitting there watching this, like, what's he thinking? What the hell movie am I in?
I don't know. He still talks to me, so.
He was very nice. He made me
just
a little
win for
ball.
me.
He's a nice dude.
He's a great guy.
We actually have a question that was sent in from Reed Emmons, and this is a question for you, Wes. And he asks if you ever have actors who have physical limitations when it comes to mocap. How do you tackle it if they are perfect for the role but might struggle with some movements?
So I can't say I had that specific issue on this movie. It's my only mocap movie, right? Of the mocap thing. But I would say if they're perfect for the role, then it's probably because that physical thing, that limitation, whatever it is why they're perfect for the role. So, and as a director, I would embrace it. I would use that as part of their character. If they are truly right for the role, we figure it out. Those are the kind of little happy accidents, those little things that the movie gods give you that, sometimes they're unexpected things that you put into a movie and makes it something that feels that much more interesting or authentic and less, generic. So that's the kind of stuff I embrace. But all over the place, these little physical attributes, were apparent in all the actors. So I tell some stories sometimes where sometimes I'll see just the skeleton version of the apes when we're doing the early kind of work where I just see the mocap skeleton, right? So I don't see the body, I don't see the model, I don't see anything. I just see their raw motion. And I can tell which actor is which by the way they hold themselves. Their body position is a part of their character, the way they hold themselves, right? Another story is Anaya, the character that one of Noah's friends. You see him in the movie, he's always holding himself like this. His arm is always like this. And he always walks around like this. And where that came from was he invented this little backstory that when he was a little baby, he had a little toy. And he carried it with him everywhere he went. And as he grew up, the toy went away, but his little thing that became this physical attribute of him, we carried on through the thing. So that's the kind of stuff, those physical little attributes are the things that kind of makes things feel real and becomes alive. So, if that guy is asking about, is there do I have a future in mocap? Worry not. Just focus on being connecting with the material and being honest and true and use it. You know what I mean? Is what I always say.
That's such incredible advice, right? Well, sadly, that is all we have time for because I could hear go on for a long time.
Thanks
but
for coming out, guys.
If you want to watch this again, it is on Hulu and Disney Plus under the extras section and spread the word.
The entire movie. You can watch it in Disney Plus. Just find that little extras button. You'll see it there. And we pushed hard to put this out there because no one's ever done it before and no one quite knew what to do with it. But it's a fantastic way for people who really want to study filmmaking to see how the stuff is made. And I'm really happy the studio agreed to put it out there for people.
Perfect.
So glad you pushed that, man.
Wes, thank you,
job.
Kevin. And thank you to SAG and thank you to everybody for coming out this afternoon. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.